2 to 3. I know this is a 4th week of school, and just wanted to hear, how is the virtual experience working for you? What's going well? And I'm talking about just generally with all your classes, what's going well? What are you hearing from your friends about what's going well? How do we need to improve this as we continue with virtual being an option all year long for students? It's a parent's choice. So just talk to me. How are things going?
I think things are going really well. It did take some time to kind of adjust to it, but after some time, I got used to it and it feels pretty good.
So you're have the routine down. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. Anybody else?
I agree with what she said, that like it took some time to get used to, but now like everything it's good now. It's easier, a lot easier now.
Easier now. Okay. Easy. Is it work easier, or just the whole process and the protocols in terms of just joining, understanding the format for the lessons? And
Yes, like the whole process, it's just it could like he said, it took some time to get used to because it was all new.
okay. Okay, but you're used to it now. Okay.
Yes.
All right. What are y'all hearing from your peers, from your classmates, or from those of you who have siblings, from your younger siblings about this experience?
I know. Oh, can I speak?
You're on. We can hear you.
Everyone is doing. I try to catch up with them. And I know a lot of us have like kind of struggled in the beginning with time management, but I think like we knew over time we would get like, we would understand like what we need to do that day. We would have to manage our time like more efficient. I think like over barely like getting into.
Okay, so just time management and learning how to adjust and better manage time. That's improved, Natalia? Okay. Okay, anybody else? Same thing. Give me a thumbs up if it's pretty much the same thing. Struggled in the beginning, but now we've got this down. All right. So let me ask you about what questions, what questions do you have for me, or do you want us to be thinking about when we work with your campus principals? What are you wondering about? Nothing? I wonder about things all the time, so much that I don't even get much sleep at night.
Miss, for like the teachers, you know how we have to like we're doing the survey to go back to school and all that. What about the teachers that don't get any students back? Can they like stay at home, or will they have to go back to school?
Yeah, we'll have to work out that. I think for the high school, when we talk to the high school principals and our assistant superintendent in charge of high schools, one of the things about high schools, even if you get 50 students back, those 50 students could be in, 80 some different teachers' classrooms because of the graduation plans. So we'll have to see what happens with that. And we'll always consider, we're a district that believes in continuous improvement and making adjustments as needed. So Emily, we'll just have to see who shows up, because we are anticipating most of the kids who, when they registered, their parents registered them to come back, and that's about 33% said we'll be on campus. We'll be on campus. When we polled our parents again, the week of Friday, September 11th through the Monday of September 14th, it was about 32% said my kids are going back. Of those, many of them are high school, and the high school has, that hybrid that we're going to be doing, which is some students will come to some students will come to school, to campus for in-person learning who chose to do that. on Mondays and Tuesdays. And I think that's probably A to L, if your surname is from A to L. And then others will come in Wednesday and Thursday. But whether I'm in school or not, I need to be connected and interacting with my teacher. So if I'm in school, I'm interacting face to face. I still have my computer. And if I'm at home and I have that same teacher, let's say it's Mrs. Ramos, I am interacting virtually when I'm not on campus. And then if I chose to be remote all year, well, I'm doing remote. So we'll have to wait and see about the impact of that. There's some teachers probably who teach singleton classes and or teach classes that are tied to dual credit, that like CTE classes that require hands-on, the hands-on requirements for CTE students for them to get credit. And a lot of those courses are tied to the associate's degrees. Those, I believe, have to start on the 28th, but it's just once a week where the students have to be allowed to come in and do the hands-on part of the curriculum for that subject area to get credit. So that's a wait and see. And I bet we'll probably have a few teachers, even at the high school, who may not have any students. Now, the other thing that's important to remember is that every 6 weeks, the parent has the choice. So a parent can say, no, they're not going to go this 6 weeks, but the next 6 weeks, a parent can say, okay, now we want her, her to go. I'm comfortable with the data that exists in terms of COVID cases in Wesco or Hidalgo County or the state. Saw the protocols for the school. I'm going to send them now. So we're going to try to control it that way as well. I don't know if that made sense, Emily. That was a long way to answer your question.
I understood it.
I kind of went like this. I didn't have it outlined. Okay, anybody else? It's good seeing your faces.
If you're just joining us, Dr. Canales, our superintendent, is here to visit and see what your concerns are, what your experiences have been like. It's difficult for the leadership of our school district to make decisions, and so they're kind of reaching out to see what it's like for you. And this is an opportunity to give some of your feedback. So if you've got some ideas or something that you want to share, now is a good time.
Miss, I was gonna say, isn't it still too risky because we're getting put at risk and all teachers, they're getting exposed?
Okay, so I didn't, Ms. Ramos, can you repeat the question? It broke up a little bit.
It was Gabriela, and I think what she was saying was, what about the risk of the teachers being exposed on campus and the fact that the virus is still present in our county, that kind of thing. Is that right, Gabby?
Yeah.
So I was talking to Mrs. Ramos before y'all joined us. One of the things here in central office, now we don't have students here, right? But we have about 70 people in this building. Before we left for the summer break, we get 2 weeks off in summer. Before we left for the summer break, we had a couple of cases. I was pretty much with everybody. You need to wear this. You need to stay 6 feet away. And so social distance, stay 6 feet away and wash your hands and sanitize frequently. That's what we've been told from the very, very beginning. We have a person in charge of health. She's in charge of the nurses for our school districts, who we look to as a foremost, at least in Wesco ISD, authority on health and what we need to do. We have the Texas Education Agency, who provides tons and tons of papers, guidelines. And yes, y'all, I'm 50 something, okay? So I still print up everything, okay? Because we didn't have computers when I was in school. So I read this constantly, and so does the team, and so do your principals. What does TA say about safety? What is the Centers for Disease Control saying about safety? I have Dr. Melendez, who's our local health authority for Hidalgo County, on my cell phone. So I text him to, give us the latest. What everybody is saying, if we all do our part, we wear our masks, we stay 6 feet apart, and we wash our hands and sanitize frequently, we should all be okay. That they're saying is a big thing to stopping the spread. So going back to us here centrally, we had a couple of cases before we broke for summer, okay? And I had to, as the superintendent, I had to be telling people, I felt like a principal, wear your mask, don't do this, do that, 6 feet apart. But we got used to it. We've been back and we've had no cases since we've come back. We've been almost back 7 to 8 weeks. We're expecting our teachers and everybody in the building, if I go visit, for me to act like like whoever I'm speaking to may have it. And for everybody to treat me like I could have it. So we would ask that our teachers, when they get to their classrooms, right, when they enter the school, we check their temperatures, they're wearing their masks, hand sanitize, go to the classrooms. Our custodians are using all kinds of products that are EPA approved that are supposed to, they're recommended for the virus. So they're constantly cleaning. So we each do our part, stay to ourselves, stay in our rooms, we should be okay. So that's what we're counting for anybody whenever we come back to be doing, to take care of self and take care of others. So our students in the classroom, there won't be more than, I think 13 is a class size for Wesco East that Dr. Gamboa said, no more than 13, so they're 6 feet apart. Students will have desk shields on their desk, okay? So right where they're sitting, a desk shield. The teacher can always say desk shield down when, you know, the teacher needs to present something at the front of the classroom, desk shield up. Students will be required to wear their masks. Teachers will have masks, teachers will have face shields, and teachers will have a desk shield as well on their desk. So we're hoping with all those measures that we can keep everybody safe. But again, it's going to be up to everybody doing their part, everybody committing. We all get tired of wearing these, but this is probably a part of our life for you know, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 5 more years, I don't know. So it's about those practices. I know our principals, we all love our teachers. And I know, you know, our principals are talking to the teachers about some of these very same things. Mrs. Ramos, when you get to your classroom, you should find on your desk several supplies, hand sanitizer, a mask, even though you might want to bring your own, everybody brings their own now, a mask, a face shield, a desk shield, disinfecting spray and disinfecting wipes. Every classroom is going to be disinfected completely. You should have like a seal or something in your door to say nobody's been there. Nobody's been in there. It's been disinfected and closed. So when you go in, and then regular disinfecting by our custodial staff who has been well trained and they're eager to go. They're like, we have everybody's backs, because now our custodians have an additional accountability that they haven't had, you know, before like this, and that's to use disinfectants. We've gone from cleaning to disinfecting. And that's part of what we do. That's part of our practice now. And then for the students that do decide to go to school, you know, we ask them to follow the same rules to help keep self safe and their teachers safe, and everybody who goes to the building is safe too. So who asked the question? Emily, who asked the question? I lost, your picture changed.
It was Gabriella that was asking that.
Gabriella, so it's everybody do their part. You know, I you know, when I went this weekend, when I was out and about in Wesco, when I went to McAllen, and I was just looking at the number of cars and people out. There are a lot of people going to the mall, a lot. There are a lot of people at Walmart. There are a lot of people at H-E-B. There are even a lot of people at restaurants. So, and I'm noticing lots of people with their masks on. And that's what we need to do. Our numbers in the county had started going down. As a matter of fact, last Monday, the police department for the city of Wesco reported only 2 cases in Wesco. That number probably has gone up because of Labor Day. So we protect our teachers by protecting ourselves. We protect each other by protecting ourselves. And that's really, really important.
I was also going to mention.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Gabriela.
I was also going to mention that like other districts have also opened up and they've closed back down as well. What would make us an exception?
Yeah, I don't know. That's probably going to happen. If we all don't practice what we need to do, the idea of a case, I'm not going to say the close down, may happen. Just today, several districts in the Rio Grande Valley opened up. Just today. They opened up to about 25% of the students' capacity, but they had, you know, they had the 6 feet markers away. The teachers had talked to the students the week before they came back, because not everybody's coming back, about when you come back, here's what you do from the very, very beginning to the very end of the day. Here's what you're doing. Here's what you're held accountable for. You're responsible for a lot more than just yourself. We'll see what happens, you know, in our area, but you're right. There've been some districts with cases that have been closed down because the Texas Education Agency has the guidance for that. And we'll tell you, this is what you need to do. There's a case. Here's what you disinfect with. Here's how many days people should be away from that area. So we'll follow those details as much as possible. And then, I mean, the main thing is if you feel, and this is what's scary, because like right now with the weather change, I'm sure a lot of you may have scratchy throats, allergies. A lot of us have allergies. But the main thing is if you're deciding that you're going to go to campus and you feel under the weather, I feel sick, and you know we have a list of symptoms for you, you stay home and you join online. Don't risk getting somebody else in your class sick, a teacher sick, your principal sick, or anybody else, on the campus. That's going to be really, really important so that we don't hopefully have a case and have spread on our campuses. Good questions, Gabriela. Any other questions? How many of you are going to go to, how many of you are planning? Your parents have said, okay, you can go to campus for the 6 weeks. Okay, Renee? Okay, anybody else? Renee, Renee, do you want to talk to me about your thinking on that and your thoughts on how on keeping people safe?
Well, I mean, just the usual, just do what they say, follow the rules.
Follow the rules. It's the same thing. Okay, anybody
There was
else?
a message, there was a student in the chat who kind of wanted to express that there are some students who have issues at home that they're trying to overcome with family members that they're looking after, other family issues that are making it difficult for them to do their schoolwork. And I know because you started off asking how it was going for them with the distance learning experience. And so one of the students was sharing a little bit in the chat about that and how it can be a challenge to keep up with your schoolwork if there are other responsibilities. So I don't know if you want to address that.
No, I would. If you have, and we understand that some of you may have special situations at home. You may have a family member who's sick. You may have to, and because of that, you may have to be helping with things that occur at home, like taking care of perhaps your siblings or taking care of helping make dinner. I think it's really important. You have teachers. One of the things I love about our districts, you have a lot of teachers who care so much about the students and about not only about you succeeding academically, but your overall welfare. It's important that if you have special situations at home that are keeping you from doing your work to the best of your ability, that you talk to your teachers, that you let them know what's going on. And our teachers are understanding, they still have their expectations. You still have to master the TEKS and student expectations to get credit, but I know that they'll work with you. So please, if you have special circumstances, I know your teachers check in with you once a week, right? Talk to you once a week, right? I'd bring that up there because it's important that we understand so that we support you, in doing your work and whatever way that means, extending your assignment, the due date and or an alternative assignment that you can still show that you mastered the standards for the class, but that would be really, really important.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that, it's hard for us to know who's having those sorts of difficulties if it's not communicated to us. Like we're trying to make sure that everybody can do the assignments and keep up with schoolwork. But if there's a special circumstance, you need to reach out to your teachers and just let them know. They don't need all the details if you don't feel comfortable sharing all of that with them, but at least let us know. Otherwise, we're going to get after you about absences. We're going to email you about things that weren't turned in, and it's not that we're bugging you. We're just trying to make sure that you can end the semester or the year with the credit that you need. So if there's a situation, it's just good to communicate. Send an email privately to the teacher and your teachers and let them know. That's good.
The other is, please also talk to your counselor, whoever your counselor is. Most of you are juniors and seniors, you've known your counselor for a couple of years. Talk to your counselor as well. And your principal. Your principal's very understanding and is there for everybody. But, always reach out to your teachers. You need to be advocates for yourself. And if you have issues, if you have things going on that are presenting extra challenges, let them know. They'll be there for you. Anything else? I know you're concerned about your teachers too. If you ask that questions, I know a lot more of you are concerned about that too. And for your peers who may be coming back. The Texas Education Agency provides the guidelines, just so you all know. I think I mentioned the last time, they are like the overseers of all schools in Texas. Commissioner Morath, that's his name. He's appointed by Governor Abbott. He's running the Texas Education Agency. He too is responsive. So, you know, he meets with superintendents every Thursday at 3 o'clock and keeps us up to date. And, you know, he knows that Hidalgo County, the Rio Grande Valley, Victoria, and Laredo are pretty much hotspots in the terms of the hospitalizations being over 15% for people who have COVID-19. And he, every Thursday, you know, he'll have an update for us. So we want to make sure that we're ready when we do start. You know, I'm sure you've heard that the starting could be as early as Monday. That's part of the transition plan. We do have other options we consider. And we do have an update coming from the commissioner on Thursday that may provide more guidance. But we want everybody to be safe. And we know part of everybody being safe is everybody following, like Renee said, the rules that we're receiving. And that's really important. So, well, I'm gonna go. I have a meeting with a couple of superintendents right now. One of them who opened up today, so I'm gonna hear how it's going for them. But, you know, Ms. Ramos, anytime you all want me to come back, you're like the feedback group for me. You're like the student advisory council at the high school level for me. So anytime y'all want me to come back, just let me know. Okay?
I really appreciate you taking the time to hear from the students, because that's important.
And it's good to see all your faces, okay? Can you believe it's the fourth week of school already? Fourth week of school. We miss y'all. Hopefully one day before the year is over, we'll see all of you face to face, okay? We don't have to worry about anything, okay? That's my wish for us all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys, good job. So the superintendent was saying that there are some possibilities for extending our virtual time, but they won't know until the meeting this Thursday. So any questions about the hybrid or any of that stuff that's going on for next week? Let's see what's in the chat. All right, well, we're going to go through our week 4 plan. So if you go to your Google Classroom, you'll see that on the pinned post here, I've put in week 4. So we'll take a little bit of time to go through that today. This week coming up, there's a test. We're wrapping up our short fiction unit. So I wanted to talk to you about how that's going to work and some other things that I have set up for you to review. If you open up the week 4 plan, you'll see that there's an agenda up here, so I'll go through that. Progress reports went in today, so at noon, so progress reports are up to date. If you have issues with your grades, your assignments, or whatever, I'm expecting that you're communicating with me about that. So do make sure that you email me, or my communication, my email and all that stuff's down here at the bottom. I think we talked a little bit about hybrid classes, and of course we had Dr. Canales to talk to us. There is an AP meeting tomorrow. I don't know if you saw that I posted that in the Google Classroom, that there's a parent meeting tomorrow for about the AP program in case parents have questions. I know they're going to be going through some information about how the AP program is working in the virtual space, and Mrs. Sid is in charge of that. So tomorrow from 11:30 in the morning until 11:50, and then again in the evening, there's going to be an information session. So you can inform your parents if they want to watch that, or you can tune in and see answering questions about policy and how things are going to work in this virtual space. If you were taking an AP class last year, you know that the whole testing situation was different than usual, It was all online, and they reduced the number of questions, and all kinds of things were changed around. So there are some new things to talk about trying to do AP in the virtual space. I can tell you right now, I didn't say this in front of the superintendent, but I can tell you right now, nobody's talking about this year going back to a regular schedule. Everybody assumes that it's going to be either virtual or hybrid for the rest of the school year. So how do we work that in with programs like AP? How do we make sure that we can take exams? And that stuff is probably something that she's going to address tomorrow. So you might be interested in attending that. Also, the seniors that are in this class last week, the counselors came in to talk to you about Apply Texas and financial aid and how to check your credits and all of that. I did create a seminar for you if you're working on your college admissions essay, because those are super important. The college admissions essay not only is for you getting into your college, but also for scholarships within that college. So we want to make sure that your essay is in good shape. And if you're working on your application and you need some guidelines, I did create a seminar. It looks like this. What I did was I went through the main topics. I've been working with students for 15 years on their college applications and getting them into their schools that they're interested in. So I created this seminar that you can go through. And basically it walks you through different aspects of the essay and how you can figure out which essays you need to do, which ones different schools are requiring, and you can kind of hop to the different sections here or across the top, and you'll see that there are little videos that are embedded into the different sections of the seminar where I will be talking you through whatever's on that slide. So it's not super fancy. I didn't do any CGI or anything like that, but I did try to set it up to be helpful to you if you're working on that process. Also, if you're working on your college admissions essay and you want some feedback, you can share it with me and I'll read it for you and give you some feedback to help you refine it so that it's ready to go. Most people submit their complete applications by the middle or the end of October. October 1st is when we start with financial aid, and you have to have your application done so before you can do financial aid. So if you're a senior and you did not attend the session with the counselor last week, I did record it and it is in the playlist that we have. You can go over here to our class video archive and see all of our class periods there and go back and watch whatever you might need to watch. Are there any general questions that I can answer about the college admissions process or the essay, seniors?
If the essay is optional, would it be better to do it or to?
Yeah, if the essay is optional, it's always better to do it. Reason being that there will be people that you're competing against who will do it. The essay is the opportunity for you to be a three-dimensional person, right? To be a round character in your own application. The application has lists of things that you've accomplished and the courses that you've taken, but it's the essay that helps them to see who you are as a person and to envision you on their campus. So it's the way that you can project to them your interest in their school and also, who you are as a person, and that's more information for them to go on in order to select you. Remember that the application process is for joining the university or the college. There'll be another process for joining the program that you're interested in. So just because you get into UT or UTRGV or A&M, you still after that have to apply to the engineering program or to the biology program or whatever field that you're looking at studying. So this is just the preliminary application to get into this school. Not everybody is accepted into the program that they want to go to. So your application needs to be as strong as possible. But yeah, I would say do the optional one because you're going to be competing with people who do them. Sometimes it will say do A is required and B is optional or something like that. And I say even then still do the optional one. I mean, it's up to you. I'm not making it a grade in class, but if it's about getting into the school of your choice, I would think you would want to do everything that you could conceivably do to secure that position. Good question. Any other questions about that process? I know the juniors are kind of like listening, but It'd be a year before you have to worry about it. Anything else I can address for you on that topic? Okay. So moving along here to the next topic here is just, I always like to go through last week's assignments a little bit with you. That way, if there's something that slipped your mind, you can kind of be reminded to do that. The formatives, we had 3 of them last week. You will see that I'm giving comments on those. The goal is to get 5 points on all the formatives. That is a grade in the class. For the progress reports, I put in your average of your formative grade up to this point as a minor grade. Right before the report card, I will put your average in again, and that will count as a major grade. We're doing a lot of work in those formatives, and it should count. It should count in your grade. The questions I'm asking you are responsive to the material that we're reading, so it's all part of the process. I'm not really giving quizzes. Normally I would give a quiz every 2 weeks or so to check on your reading and if you're reading the assignments that you're supposed to be doing. So this is kind of taking the place of that. And also attendance and all of that stuff too. So do make sure that you're looking at your formatives. I have been adding examples. So if every time you do your formative, you're getting 3 points or 2 points and you want to improve on that, you can look at some of the examples, or you can communicate with me and I'll try to do what I can to help you with that process. But every day we have a formative is another opportunity for you to improve on them. You should have read chapter 2, plot and point of view, last week. And you should have looked over in the textbook the part about reading a close analysis essay. The test that you'll be taking this week will be a written test. It'll be an essay. You'll be given 2 passages and asked to write a short paragraph response on each one of them. So I assigned for you to read this section in the textbook that that gave you a, oh, it's still loading over here.
Miss, can I be back real quick? I need to check something.
Okay, you can just go. Yeah, so you can look on here and see that there's this section. Oh no, it's not loading very quickly. Let's see, maybe the internet. In any case, you should have looked through the section of the textbook that sets up the close analysis essay. I will try to get to it this way. Maybe that will help. I'm going to go through a little bit of how to respond to these types of essays that you'll see on your test this week. I'm going to talk about that today in class. So it should load better. But are there any questions on that section from the textbook? The textbook takes you through this story, Reunion. I'm going to actually touch on that story today, and walks you through the process of writing an analysis essay about the story. One of the things that I see that happens a lot is when we ask students to write about what we're reading, is I see a lot of students relying on summary. I see that in the formatives and also on the types of tests that you'll be taking this week. So I want to caution you against summarizing what you're reading. Instead, you should be making opinions about what you're reading and responding to topics. The one that they go through in the textbook is this one here. In a well-written essay, analyze the literary elements that John Cheever uses to characterize the complex relationship between father and son in Reunion. So in that one, then it takes you through the entire process that the student goes through in working through their essay. And if you went through the textbook, you'll see that the person pulled out some quotes. They're sort of modeling what a student would do to help you prepare to write an essay. Yours will be timed. You'll have 45 minutes to read the 2 passages and write your responses. So you won't have a whole lot of time to do brainstorming and that sort of thing, but you certainly could on a piece of paper, that kind of thing. It walked you through developing a thesis statement. I'm sure that's not a new thing for you. and into developing the actual body of the paper. I want to get to that one on the next page here. Using quotations, I think it's the next one. So all this should be familiar to you. I assigned this to you for this past week. And so then you see that there's a sample student essay. Now, I'm not going to ask you on this first test to write a complete essay. It's going to be a paragraph on one passage and then a paragraph on another passage. But after this one, you'll be writing essays for your tests. So we'll talk about how that works and what the essays are like and that sort of thing. But hopefully you read through this example and saw the kind of writing that we're looking for and saw how that's different from writing a summary. All right. So any questions on that portion of the reading for this past week? Anything I can talk about in more detail for you? I think that one's a really good example. So, you know, if you review that when you're getting ready to do your online test, that will be helpful. Also, I assigned for you to look at plot and point of view. So are there any questions about that? That should also be kind of a repeat. Plot is not a new thing that you haven't talked about or thought about previously. Anything from the text? You should have made notes on all of the bold terms so that you can use them in your writing. I did notice that people were using more of the terminology in their formatives, and I think that's great. You should, when you're talking about the protagonist, say that it's the protagonist. When you're talking about the conflict, say that it's the conflict and use those terms. I don't think they're new terms, but you can use them when you're writing about the pieces that you're being asked about in the formatives. This diagram, by the way, is called the Freytag's pyramid, and it's probably something that you've learned a lot in different classes. So I don't think this is anything new. But they do a description afterwards in the textbook. This is all from the textbook. So they do a description of each one of those sections of the plot. There are some other terms like in media res and flashback. If you're using the online textbook, you can link to definitions of these terms, and I think that's helpful when you're reading, because those terms are ones that I should start seeing showing up in your formatives and when we do the test and things like that. So is there anything about plot that you want me to go over for you? All right, point of view is a longer section that you had for this past week. Point of view has to do with the perspective from which the story is being told, right? And they talk about first, second, and third person point of view and the omniscient point of view, the objective point of view. If any of that stuff is unfamiliar to you, then I can talk about it a little bit, or it's all in the textbook. So we can spend a little time talking about those things if you would like. On the test, you will need to identify the point of view of one of the passages. You'll need to say what point of view it is and how that point of view affects how the story is told will be the thrust of one of your essay questions. So that'd be a good thing to review also if you are, as you're preparing for the test. I do want to give you some notes on how to respond to the types of questions and what the questions are going to look like on the test, because they're sort of like mini versions of the actual AP exam. So let me go into that slideshow. You should have access to it here, and you should be able to click on it and go through it with me if you like, or you can just watch here on your screen. But in order to prepare you for the writing that you'll need to do on your test this week, I prepared this little slideshow, and I'm going to go through it with you now. So when we write these kinds of responses, you will see a topic, or what we call the prompt, which will have 4 parts to it. And they will be the passage, the author, the title of the piece, where it comes from, a little bit of background information. Usually they will give you something about where the passage is from. It's not always a standalone story. Sometimes it's a little piece from a novel or another piece of short fiction. So sometimes they'll say, oh, there's this conflict that's going on between the two characters, to give you a little info. Then they will state the main task and other tasks that you need to complete as you are answering that particular prompt. So here's an example of what that looks like. This goes with the story that you read over the last week, Reunion, which is the same story that they use in the textbook to talk about that student essay. So this is what this is an example of one of those prompts. It's what you'll see on your test on a different passage. It says the following passage is a short story by John Cheever, and they'll tell you when it was published. In this passage, the narrator, Charlie, is meeting with his father, whom he has not seen for 3 years. Write a paragraph in which you make a defensible claim regarding how Cheever uses first-person point of view to express Charlie's complex perspective on his father. In your paragraph, you should incorporate at least one piece of evidence to support your claim. So this is kind of like an example of what you will see when you go to do your test. These questions that I've been asking you in your formative have been preparing you to answer these types of questions. I've been asking you about point of view. I've been asking you to delve deeper into your reading passages. And so that's what I'm going to be asking you to do on the test on AP Classroom. So this part of the prompt is what we call the passage or author citation. They're just telling you who wrote it and when. The next part of the prompt is background information. In this case, we find out something important about the passage to help us navigate it. It says, in this passage, the narrator, Charlie, is meeting with his father, whom he has not seen for 3 years. So in case that's not clear in the passage, they're telling you here up front so that you have a little context for when you're reading the passage. Next up is the task. So they'll be asking you to do something with that information when you're done reading the passage. In this case, they want you to write a paragraph in which you make a defensible claim. We'll talk about defensible claims in a minute, regarding how the author uses first-person point of view to express Charlie's complex perspective on his father. So if I know that before I read the passage, then I can kind of pay attention to that while I'm reading the passage, if that makes sense. Instead, I'm not just reading the passage for everything. I'm just looking for first-person point of view and how that helps me understand Charlie's relationship with his father. In your paragraph, you should incorporate at least one piece of evidence. That's the last part. That's the secondary task. The main task is this one, right? Write this paragraph that you put forward with an idea about the first person point of view. But there's a secondary task to make sure that you accomplish at the same time, which is you should be using evidence from the passage. All right, so let's see what that looks like. They ask you to make what's called a defensible claim. A claim is really just an opinion about what you're reading. It's an answer to that task. Sometimes we call it the thesis statement in the introduction, but the claim is like your answer to the task. In this case, if the task is write a paragraph in which you make a defensible claim about how Cheever uses first-person point of view to express Charlie's complex perspective, it's going to be what you have to say about that. That's your claim. I'm claiming that Charlie's complex perspective is heightened by the first person point of view because. If you were in AP English 3 last year, claims are not new to you. So there's the definition of the claim. So let's talk about what a defensible claim is and what they mean by that term. So when they're asking you to write your paragraph or later on your essay, they're asking you to make a point about the whatever they're asking you, whatever terminology they're asking you to focus on. In this case, it's the point of view. So they want you to comment on the first person point of view and how that helps us to understand Charlie and his viewpoints about his father. So defensible claim just means something that you can defend and explain in your paragraph or in your essay. Sometimes they will give you literary elements, like in this case, they're already giving you point of view. Sometimes they won't, and they'll just ask you to use techniques and devices. And that means you have to come up and supply those. So we'll talk about that in a little more depth later on, but they're mainly looking for you to use terminology that we've been studying, flashback, they're looking at characterization terms, point of view terms, all those terms that you've been taking notes on. That's what they mean by devices and elements. In this particular prompt, we are given the first person point of view. They don't want us to write about metaphor. They don't want us to characterize the dad. They want us to write about how first person point of view is used in the passage. So I have to stick with that, and I have to use that as my task. So sometimes devices are given, in this case it is, and sometimes you are not given, and it will just say, instead of some device here, it will just say uses techniques and devices, and you have to say what those techniques and devices are. But we're just starting, so they're going to give it to you there on that AP Classroom. All right, so let's look at what a response would be like on this kind of a question. So in this particular situation, we can see that the suggestion is that there's a claim that can be supported. And so this would be like the first sentence of your response. In Reunion, which is the name of the story, John Cheever uses the first person perspective to help us understand how different Charlie is from his father and how he realizes his father's faults. And if you know that passage, you know that that is exactly what he figures out, because his dad is sort of a distasteful person, and he realizes it for the first time because he hasn't spent time with his dad in the last 3 years. So this is what we would call a valid claim. It's my response to that topic or that prompt that is being presented to me. That's not the only part of the answer though, because that's just the beginning part. Here's what a complete paragraph response might look like. You can see that right here, the claim is still here at the beginning. In Reunion, John Cheever uses the first person perspective to help us understand how different Charlie is from his father and how he realizes his father's faults. That's what I'm going to be proving. I need to spend the rest of my paragraph setting about proving that. So if that's my answer, now I need to give my evidence. And so the rest of the paragraph is about explaining that. Even though Charlie believes at the beginning of the story that he would end up being like his father, quote, "He was my father, my flesh and blood, my future and my doom," we realize just how different father and son are when we witness Charlie's account, first person, of the time he spends with his father. Through the first person perspective, we witness Charlie's growing understanding that his father is an overbearing, annoying alcoholic. The father drags his son to 4 different restaurants and treats all of the workers in an abusive way. Quote, "If there's one thing I cannot tolerate, it's an impudent domestic." With Charlie, we discovered that his father is not a person he would want to emulate, and that is the likely reason that that was the last time I saw my father. So with this kind of a response, we get a complete answer to the original prompt. We have the claim followed by the support for that claim. So this is what you should be able to do, and why I've been trying to coach you on your formatives to extend your ideas. That's been, everything that I'm going to give you has always got a purpose in our study. I don't give assignments that are not integral and super important to what it is that you're going to be expected to do on your exams for this class. So this is the kind of writing that I've been getting from a number of you. A number of you are poised and ready to do this test. Other people who have been ignoring their formatives or writing just sort of basic sentences, hopefully they will be able to do well on the test, despite the fact that they have been maybe not doing all of the formatives, but we've been practicing those for 3 weeks. All right, any questions on that slideshow or what I was trying to show you on that? Or anything I can go over or go back to? Of course, you can always go back to that slideshow. You can always go back and look at some of those examples. You can always, there's a practice test that you'll be able to do this week. Y'all make me go into the chat just for a no. Don't do that. All right, so let's go through the task for this week and how you're going to do your test. So you should have already signed up on AP Classroom so that you can do the test. The test is from AP Classroom, so it's the AP's exam. I did set up a review for you so that you can prepare, and that's really all we have this week besides the formatives. There's a formative today, and there's one on Wednesday. This is a B week, so there's not a formative on Friday. But you do need to spend some time reviewing before you sit down to take the test because it is timed. It will close after 45 minutes, no matter where you are in your process of the test. So you want to make sure that you're prepared. The first part of the review I've listed here has two parts to it. Obviously, go over your short fiction notes, all the notes that you've been doing on the chapters that I've been going over in class. Go through all of those. We've had notes so far on character, setting, plot, and point of view. So I would review all of my notes on those. We've had assignments to read all those chapters in the textbook in chapter 2. Also, when you go to AP Classroom, you'll see that I've assigned 4 review videos to you. It's nice that AP Classroom has some videos to go over terminology and to help you practice some of the things that we've been already doing in class. But there are 4 videos that you can watch that I've assigned to you on AP Classroom, and they're directly going to help you with preparing for the test. So those are there. They're short. They're like 5 or 6 minute videos, and there are 4 of them. I did also set up, in case you're somebody who wants to make sure that you're ready for the test, or maybe some of this stuff is a little bit challenging, a little bit confusing. It's kind of hard because we don't have the give and take of a regular classroom. So if you would like more practice and get some feedback from me before you do your test, I set up a practice test. So I put that it's optional. It is not for a grade, except that if you do the optional practice test, it might help your overall score on the actual test. But I did set up a practice test. So after you go through your review and you watch the videos that are there for you on AP Classroom, if you want to practice some more, you can do a practice test. I set it up as a Google form, and I'll show it to you in a second. But if you do that practice test by Thursday, then I will give you feedback by the end of the day on Friday. And then you have until Sunday to do the actual test. So the advantage to that is that I'll see what you would write on the practice test. I'll read through it, and then I'll give you some pointers and some tips about, you know, hey, just do that. That's great. It's in good condition. You gave your claim, you gave your support. Or I might give you some tips to help you do better when you go to take the actual test online. So that's up to you if you want to do it by Thursday. After Thursday, the practice test is not available to you anymore. So after Thursday, Friday you'll get your feedback from me, and then Saturday and Sunday you'll have to do your test. If you don't want to do the optional review, then you can just go ahead and do your test whenever you're ready. So let me show you how the practice test works. If you click there, you'll see the practice test is set up like a form. So, oh, I already did it as a practice. Well, anyway, it's like a form, and you'll see you'll put in your name, and then there'll be a passage for you to respond to. And so when you make that response, I'll go in and check it and give you feedback. I'll email you your feedback. So if you're not one that's checking email, you should probably start doing that. A lot of communication is going on through email these days. The test itself is on AP Classroom, so you should already be logged into our class. I gave a grade for that already about logging into the classroom. So I don't know if your interface looks like mine. Probably it's a little bit different, but it's this one. When you log into Google Classroom, AP Classroom, you should see, if you go to the classroom, that you have been assigned the test. It's called, mine probably looks different than yours, but it's called, there are some videos, and then there are also some progress checks. So you've been assigned progress check 1. It will look like this and under your assignments. Progress check FRQ, that stands for free response question or essay question. So I've already set that up so that it's available to you, and that's your only assignment for this week. It is a major grade, so you'll want to make sure that you do well, and that's also why I've given you, oops, that's the wrong thing. That's also why I've given you all of the practices that you have available to you and to prepare. All right. Questions? I'm trying to find the right tab up here, but this thing's in my way. There we go. The test is going to close on Sunday at 11:45 p.m. You do not have to wait until Sunday to do it. It's open to you throughout the week. If you do your practices or your reviews and you have questions and you want to meet with me, then I'll be glad to set up a conference and we can talk about whatever in the reviews that you might want to spend some time going over. Questions about the test? Reviews. Hopefully the reviews will give you enough support at whatever level you need to prepare and do a good job on the AP little practice test there. So just a reminder, there'll be 2 passages on the test. They're short. And for each one, you'll have to write a paragraph like the example that I gave you in the slideshow. Be on 2 different passages. And then I'll be scoring them AP style. AP style means that you get scored 1 to 6 for each one. And that will correlate to a grade in the grade book. All right. You will be timed 45 minutes. So I would probably make sure that I spent 20 minutes on one and 20 minutes on another so that you don't run out of time. If you run out of time, I'll have to grade what you have. If you do not do the test by Sunday, then it will be recorded as a 0. So I wouldn't wait until the last minute to do it in case you have internet problems or something like that. All right. Anything else, you can contact me. My Google Voice is here. My email is here. I've been responding to people pretty much all the time and making sure everybody's got what they need. So if anything comes up or you have a situation that I should know about, then you should communicate that with me. Are there any final questions before I close the meeting? All right, if you have a question, you want to stick around behind after everybody goes. If you have something you want to ask me, feel free to do that. Otherwise, go ahead and sign off. Have a good week and good luck on the test.
Bye, Miss.
Bye.
Bye, Miss. Have a good day.
Bye, you too.